Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in as always. Most of you, I think, are familiar with this beautiful 1952 Willys pickup that we've been working on for the last 2 years. Couldn't be happier with this thing. She's running great. Brand new L134 rebuild in there. And then just recently, we ended up with another Jeep on my property. So what happened was, after working on this pickup for 2 years and becoming so familiar with it and now fond of it, I thought I might need a Jeep of my own to start a project on. So I knew I wanted an early Jeep, either late 1940s or 1950s Jeep under the Willys company. What I was looking for is one that was maybe, you know, $1,500 or $2,000 or something, kind of a beater that I could fix up and make my own. And I quickly realized that the Jeeps from the late 40s and the 1950s were more money than the later Jeeps were. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the Jeeps of the 60s, 70s, or 80s, but the early stuff was what interests me. But I was unable to find a $1,500 early Willys Jeep. They just don't seem to exist, and if you do find one at that price, you're either lucky or it's a complete basket case and perhaps not worth saving. And then I saw this one pop up with shiny paint and a new top and a rebuilt engine and tires and wheels and interior. And I thought, you know what, that is pretty much the CJ that I would build if I was to start from scratch. I don't know if I would choose this color necessarily starting from scratch, but it's growing on me. I do kind of like the color. But overall, this is kind of the Jeep that I would build if I was starting from scratch. And yeah, they go for a little bit more money when they're shiny and pretty, but this one was a little bit unique because it was like 90% done, 95% done, but there's still a lot of things that need to be addressed on it. So that's where this Jeep fits me perfectly. I can take it and I can fix what needs to be fixed and finish it and enjoy it. The gentleman I bought it from was very nice to deal with, and we came to a deal for a price on it that I think was both fair to him and me, given the fact that it still needed some work. And for all of you out there that have been following along with this build, I just want to let you know that this one looks like it will get painted. And when we start to talk about exterior paint, then we say, well, what do we do with the undercarriage? What do we do with the interior? You know, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things to be decided before we go forward on that, but it looks like it will get painted. So please subscribe if you haven't already. You're not going to want to miss that. Anyway, getting back to this Jeep, this is a 1955 CJ-5 Willys Jeep. On the 52 pickup over here, the money shot in the back is the Overland Willys logo that's embossed into the tailgate. I just think that is so cool. And then on the CJ-5 over here, the money shot is the Willys logo that's also embossed into the tailgate right there. It's just a different type of a deal. Now, there's a lot of things about this vehicle that I like, and there's a few things that I don't like, but let me give you an overview of this Jeep. Then we're going to do a comprehensive inspection on it just to see what kind of mechanical state it's actually in. We're going to make a list on the whiteboard of things to fix, and we're going to begin this project. First of all, this top is relatively brand new. It looks like it's the Best Top company. It's in really good condition. Everything seems to work on it. And here's the interior. You can see we got some wires hanging here and there, but I love the simplicity of the dash. They even covered the seats, and on the floors and the tub back here, they put this kind of like a bedliner type material on it. And you can see in the front here, we don't have any carpet or anything. It's just all body and metal. And these look like new components down here with new hardware. Everything's just nice and clean. Yeah, it does need cleaned up here and there. We got the relay dangling and wires dangling, but overall, I really like the interior of this Jeep. Let me show you the other side. They installed a brand new heater in it, but the heater is not hooked up yet. The glove box needs to be installed still, but we have that. On the driver's side, we've got an electric windshield wiper, and then on the passenger side, we've got a manual windshield wiper, just like from a Model T or something like that. There is not a roll bar in this unit. It's just the frame for the top. And just generally speaking, looking around at a more of a finished Jeep actually gives me some ideas for the other Jeep, depending on how far we go with that. I like the color scheme well enough, the greenish color with the tan, but I don't think I like the wheels. They just somehow don't look right on this vehicle. Maybe they'll grow on me, but as it stands right now, my plans are to replace these wheels with original wheels that were all steel, like the spare here and the wheels on the truck. Now, I reserve my right to change my mind in the future, but I think I would like steel wheels with a slightly skinnier tire. And let me show you the engine compartment. And I'm going to show you everything on this Jeep before this video is over, or nearly everything. So the last time this vehicle was plated was 2019, so it's been off the road for approximately 6 years. The story is that that's about when the restoration on the vehicle was completed, about 6 or 7 years ago, and that included a complete engine rebuild. And I forgot to show you this. The previous owner said that when they rebuilt the engine and restored the Jeep, they also put a new speedometer and odometer in it. And right now it has 493 miles on that odometer, which according to the story is all this new engine has on it, less than 500 miles. It has been converted to 12 volts, and somebody welded a little bar right here on the battery hold down bracket, but they welded the bar on upside down. The brackets are supposed to go the other way. So we can grind that off and re-weld it and fix that another time. It's got a fancy little 12 volt starter in there. We got an alternator, but this is an F134 and the pickup truck has an L134. This is basically the same motor as the L134 from the top of the block down, but the head and up is completely different. Now, in most overhead valves, you'd have 2 rockers per cylinder, right? 2 valves per cylinder. Well, you take this valve cover off and you would only find 1 rocker per cylinder, and those rockers operate the intake valves. So on this engine, the intake valves are on top facing down, but the exhaust valves are still inside the block, just like a flathead facing up. It's really a strange way to do it. In this configuration, they were able to use larger intake valves, and they ended up making the combustion chambers a little bit smaller, so you got more fuel in a tighter space, so you got more compression, ended up with more horsepower. So this motor supposedly has 70-75, as opposed to the L134 that has about 60-ish. Now I want to talk about the paint just really quickly. On camera and in person, actually, this looks like a beautiful paint job. Whoever did it really did a nice job. It looks like maybe it was even wet sanded. It's got a nice shine to it, but we've got some issues. We've got some rust specks coming up through the paint. Not much of it, but a little bit here. You can see some right here. Now, it's not terrible, but anytime you start to get this stuff, that's just the beginning of the end of the paint job, basically. It's really kind of puzzling to me because it looks like somebody went to great care to put a nice paint job on this rig. Perhaps the preparation wasn't done properly. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Nothing in the front, nothing up here, just a little bit up there. But even with that problem, I absolutely love the look of this vehicle overall, with perhaps exception to the wheels. Now, I'm not a Jeep expert yet, but I know that some of the things on this body were made for the military Jeep of this era, the M38A1. This, for example, is where they would mount the military side view mirror, I believe. And then you got things like this, notches and holes that were provisions for tools. They would mount tools to the sides of these things and in the front and all around. And this right here is perhaps the most interesting. This, on a military Jeep, this would be open. This little panel would not be there. And the reason that was there is because they put a snorkel there. From the top of the air intake to the carburetor, a tube would come out the side of the Jeep and run along here, go up the side of the windshield post and stick up to about yay high, and that would be your air intake system. So the Jeep could actually drive through deep water and it wouldn't drown itself. And the Jeeps that had those provisions also had tailpipes that came up past the top of the roof, so like maybe right there. So we had a snorkel intake here and the exhaust right there. So there's the intro for you on how I got this Jeep in its quick overall condition. Now let's get into this thing and see what we need to fix. In no particular order, we'll start with the coolant. All right, looking at the coolant out in the sun here, you can see it's got a brownish coloration to it, right? It's not all green anymore. When it turns a murky brown like that, that could be a sign of a few different things. Number one, it could simply mean that the coolant is just very old and it needs to be changed. Number two, it could mean that there's some rust in the coolant system that is getting mixed in with the green coolant. And number three, it could mean that we have a head gasket issue possibly, and that brown coloration is actually oil. All right, we'll check the engine oil now. The oil looks excellent. It's still very new looking, and the level is just below the full mark. And I don't smell any gasoline in the oil. Let's see if we can check the oil bath air cleaner here. Gotta be careful not to spill this stuff. Well, the oil in here also looks excellent, and it's right to the full mark. Now we're going to check the oil in the front differential. Well, the oil is at the perfect level and it looks really good too. It's good quality still. All right, here's the rear differential. Well, it's full and it's a little dirtier than the front, but still good condition. Now you can see right there, pretty good oil leak coming off the bottom of the rear differential. It's most likely a failed gasket. I'm going to try to tighten these lower bolts down just to see if we might get lucky with that, but I don't think that's going to fix it. We'll probably have to replace that gasket. Yeah, that one's tight. Tight. Yeah, they're all tight already. You can see the last guy used some sealant around here. It's squishing out the top and on the sides, but on the bottom is non-existent. He either didn't get a good seal with his gasket and sealant on the bottom. It could be just very old. So I'll add that to the list of things to do. Now I am underneath the truck and we're checking oil in the transmission. You have to remember to check the transmission oil as well. It's not something that can be overlooked just because it's kind of hard to get to. This one actually has oil in it. It's just a little bit low, so I'm going to top it off. Now we're going to check the level of oil in the transfer case. Okay, good. It's got oil and it's more or less full. Even though we've got some leaks coming out, that bottom gasket is still holding most of the oil in there. And might as well check the oil in the steering box as well. It's just got a little pipe plug on it. Okay, everything looks good in there too. Okay, we're gonna see how many of you have been paying attention out there. What fluid have we not checked yet? That's correct, the brake fluid. The master reservoir is right there, but I'm actually not going to check that right now just because the brakes are going to be a larger investigation, and we'll save the master cylinder and the brake fluid for when we check the whole brake system. So all the other fluids that we have checked have been pretty good. The only one that I want to follow up on is I want to get back to the coolant system, drain that, and put some fresh in. So I'll add that to the list of things to do. As it is right now, it's just fine to run that way. I've already checked the air pressure in the tires. They were all low at about 15 psi each. And these tires at max load can take 50 psi. So I inflated them all to somewhere in the low 40s, 42, 43, which is just fine for now. So I'll check the air pressure again tomorrow just to see if we were losing any air anywhere, like maybe we have a slow leak. I kind of doubt that's the case. It's just more indication that the truck hasn't been driven a lot. The tires themselves look really good. They still have got like 99% of the tread left on them. But what's weird is I could not find a date code on this brand. Of course, I looked on the outside of all of them and the inside of all of them. I don't know where this company stamps their date codes, but wherever it is, it's not easily found. Now let's check the lights. The previous owner put a piece of tape here and here to indicate that these bulbs are out. If that's the case, this one and this one should work, and this one and this one should be out. So I guess we'll start with the running lights, see what we get. Well, that one comes on and this one doesn't. Maybe the tape was on the good ones and the other ones were out. Let's check the headlights. All right, so that checks. The one with the tape is out and this one is working. Let's go back to the running lights. Well, let's move this piece of tape from here to here. So these two are working and these two are out. Turn signals. Let's try the turn signals. First, lights are off. All right, so the rear turn signal is not working, neither is the front turn signal, but the right front and the right rear turn signals are both working. So we'll need to put a new bulb in this one and this one. They are dual filament bulbs, and we'll check the blinkers again after we put new bulbs in them. Here are the running lights in the rear. Okay, both running lights are working. Let's check brake lights. And turn signals again. Yeah, that turn signal works and this one does not. And we have kind of a funny thing going on inside the cab here. Watch when I turn the parking lights on. We get lights on all the gauges, even the big speedometer gauge over there. And then I pull the light switch to the second position for the headlights. And the lights on these little gauges go out, but the light stays on the speedometer. So the light circuit on these three are wired up incorrectly because they only come on with the parking lights and go off with the headlights. So far on the board we've got coolant. We need to change it. Tire pressure, question mark. We got to check those again tomorrow to see if we're losing any air or not. We've got both front running light bulbs And we've got the driver's headlight bulb. Then we've got the gauge cluster lights. We know we need to check the entire brake system because the pedal doesn't feel good at all. It's almost all the way to the floor. We also need to check the clutch adjustment. Now, originally these CJ-5s had the spare tire mounted right about there on the right side of the rear quarter panel there. But it was semi-common for people to move them to the back just to get them out of the way. For example, if you had to pull the Jeep into a garage or something like that, because the tire would stick out, you know, about that far, and you might not have that much width in your garage or your shop, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they move the tire back here. Well, that's all well and good. Number one, this tire is completely flat, and number two, it covers up the Willys logo right there, and that's kind of the money shot of the back of the Jeep, in my opinion. The other thing it does is it prevents you from being able to lower the tailgate. So for all those reasons, I really don't like the spare wheel where it's located. So let's remove that first. You can see there's a bolt right there with no nut, and then there's that grade 2 bolt on top. Looks like that's the only thing that's holding this on. Now, in my opinion, this looks so much better than it did before. We can lower the tailgate if we want to. We can see the Willys logo. We can see the back of the Jeep. So I don't know what to do about that spare wheel as far as where to mount it. All I know is I don't like it on the back. So we'll think about that for the future. If you guys have any ideas about that, drop a comment. Now we're going to go through the extra parts that came with the Jeep just to see what all we have here. Well, it looks nice in here just like the front does. So I got that bedliner type, you know, protective coating. And it looks to me like somebody notched out that wheel well so they can move the driver's seat back a little bit, because that looks like a kind of an amateur job, certainly not something from the factory. But I'm not going to complain too much about that because I am 6'1" and I fit very well in this Jeep where the seat is. The only thing I might do with the seat in the future is fabricate some rails for it so we can actually slide it frontwards and backwards. Like, for example, if my wife wanted to drive it, we could slide it forward and then slide it back for me, because the way he's got it mounted, it's just fixed. You can't move it at all. So let's go over all this stuff. I'm just going to do it really quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I believe this is the original speedometer and odometer. This is the bezel and glass for it. This is an aftermarket plate to mount a hitch to the rear bar. I'll show you that later. We have a brand new manual type grease gun with 2 tubes of grease. We got some jumper cables from 1977, and it looks to be a rebuilt carburetor. The carburetor on this Jeep is a different model than this, so I don't know why this is in this box, but it looks to be in good condition, so we'll investigate that. Miscellaneous hardware there. Over here we have a brand new glove box and hardware. I don't know what this is yet. That switch there is an old heater switch. That's an old light switch. That's just a trailer plug. And we got 2 horns, so we can test those and see if they work, and maybe we'll put those in this Jeep. We've got 2 brand new side mirrors here. Unfortunately, they're not for this model, but I did look at the bolt holes here where they mount, and I think that I can modify these brackets in such a way that we can still use these on the Jeep. Steering wheel cover that I'll probably never use. This is one of those oil pumps, like for using gear oil underneath the vehicle if the hole is above your bottle. This is a reconditioned and painted glove box door. Painted the same color as the Jeep. So that's nice. This is the end exhaust pipe to the exhaust system. This is the last one in the chain. So we'll figure out why this is here when we crawl under the vehicle here in a little bit. We've got one set of new seat belts, so I'll probably order one more of these so we can have one for the driver and the passenger. We've got some gear oil there, some lead additive, a couple of rags here, and that big pouch there is a car cover for the Jeep. So I'm really excited about that. We can keep this covered out here in the shop and try to keep the dust off it. We're going to test these horns real quick to see if they're worth saving. Oh, that one works. I imagine these were intended to be used with a 6-volt system. So if we use them, we'd have to run some kind of a ballast resistor. Okay, the horns work. So yeah, I think we'll install these. And this is that rear hitch mount. And the holes line up there in the bracket. And it's nice and heavy duty. So maybe we'll get some grade 8 bolts for the mount, throw a coat of paint on it and find a ball, and maybe we could tow a trailer or something. And under this passenger seat is a toolbox area or a storage area. And there's some stuff in here too. Service manual. That could have come in handy on the pickup truck. An owner's manual and a parts catalog. Let me show you what the storage area looks like. It's pretty simple, just a little compartment to put things. Somebody put a piece of carpet in there. And then another thing that came in those box of parts was this rear view mirror and bracket. And it was all dirty and rusted out. And I've actually restored that already and installed it. So I think that turned out pretty good. It's made out of metal, which is nice because a lot of these aftermarket ones that you can get for these Jeeps are made out of plastic. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think a 1955 CJ-5 was factory equipped with a rear view mirror. If anybody can confirm or deny that, leave a comment. If we look on the front here, you can see these two holes. I'm actually borrowing one of these holes to mount the rear view mirror. But what these holes were initially for, there was a latch mounted here, like a hook latch. And then on the hood, right about here somewhere, there was another kind of something like this, but it was larger and taller. So the idea was when you raise the hood, it would come up here and it would latch into this hook affair and stay there. This looks to be a really nice quality top. The doors even have new weather stripping. I'll show you how the doors work. Just unlatch them and they should pull right off the hinges. Like that. That actually looks pretty cool with the doors off. Now I want to see how this car cover fits, because I'm planning on using this most of the time. Clearly never been opened before. Well, I think I have it installed correctly. Green stripe in front, maybe. It definitely covers the entire Jeep, including the bumpers. And it would fit over our spare tire if it was still there. There's plenty of extra slack back there. Yeah, I call that good enough. Seems to be pretty good quality cover. And the inside of it is actually lined, so it's not gonna scratch up your paint, you know, when you're trying to put it on. So I think I'll definitely get a lot of use out of this. In the meantime, we're going to pull it back off and we'll stick it in the back of the Jeep for now. Now we're going to see if we can get a look down inside the gas tank. And I'm going to use my borescope tool here. This never really translates well from the screen to the 4K of my video camera, so you just have to take my word for it. Well, it actually looks pretty good down inside there. I don't know if that tank was replaced or perhaps cleaned. So this is the actual fuel tank right there underneath the driver's seat. I believe the civilian tank size is 10 gallons. Now I want to get a look at the spark plugs, and we'll stick the bore scope down a couple of the cylinders as well and see how the bores look. Number one looks a little oily along the ring. Here's number two, and it looks about the same as number one. Not bad, you know, near the electrode, but there is some evidence of oily residue around the ring. All four spark plugs ended up looking the same. Pretty good burn pattern by the electrode, but a little bit of oily residue around the ring of the spark plug, which really shouldn't be there. I did get the bore scope camera down into 3 of the cylinders, and they all look just fine. The cylinder walls look really good, actually. The top of the pistons look normal to me. So this Jeep hasn't been plated since 2019. So it's been off the road for approximately 6 years. In my opinion, it's really not good for these old engines to be started, moved out of the garage, let run for 2 minutes, and then pulled back in the garage and turned off again. That is, they never reach operating temperature unless you take them for a drive. So again, this is just me guessing at it, but I have a feeling that if we start running the engine, let it get up to maybe even only 1 heat cycle, and then check the spark plugs again, I think that oily residue might just burn off and go away. Of course, that's just a guess, but that's what we're going to try now. And getting back to the dirty coolant in the radiator as well, I'm going to take the radiator cap off. We're going to start the engine and let it run until it gets up to operating temperature. I want to make sure that the thermostat comes on and we get a circulation of coolant. And then while we're looking down in there, we can also look for evidence of a head gasket failure that might explain the dirty coolant. And that could manifest itself as foam or excessive bubbling down inside the radiator there. And then again, we're going to run it and let it get up to operating temperature, then let it cool down, and we'll come back out and check the plugs again and see if there's any difference. All right, that was about a 20-minute run. It took about 20 minutes to get up to operating temperature. And I don't think this thing has a thermostat installed, because as soon as I turned the engine on, I could see circulation down there, and that circulation continued throughout the whole run. The good news is there's no foaming, there's no bubbling, there's nothing of any kind that would indicate a bad head gasket. So I think the dirty coolant is just the fact that it's old. And that's no big deal at all. We can change that out. But you guys know me, I like to be thorough and check out every possibility that I can, because I just hate to make assumptions, especially when you're evaluating a new vehicle, a new engine for the very first time. The alternator is not working for some reason, so all we're doing right now when we're running it is just draining the battery. So I'll have to add that to the list of things to investigate. and we're not getting any smoke whatsoever out the tailpipe. No blue smoke, no white smoke. We're not getting any moisture dripping out the back, and the engine really sounds good. So I think that we're okay with the engine here, but let's complete the spark plug test before we move on, get one pulled to see how it looks. So the spark plugs still have a little bit of that oily residue along the ring. The electrode looks fine. The ceramic part is still intact. I think these are firing just fine. And I still stand by what I said. I think this stuff is going to go away and burn off when we start driving the Jeep more. But as it is not a big deal. We're just going to keep our eye on this for the future. As long as we're under the hood here, I want to actually check under the distributor cap just to see if somebody's converted this to electronic ignition, because they went to the trouble of converting it to 12 volt. We got a fancy starter in there. We got an alternator. It wouldn't surprise me if it was electronic ignition, but let's find out. And I was right. They did convert it to electronic ignition. Still got your standard rotor here. Can't do without that. But that's the electronic module right there. There's no more points in condenser. We can add rear differential leak to the list. Can also add the alternator to the list. And now it's time to get under the vehicle and inspect whatever we can see under there. So we're underneath the right hand side of the vehicle, and we've got some nice looking spring packs and some newer shocks, and we've got some newer brake lines. We've got a wet and leaking oil pan here, pretty much all the way around on this side, and we'll check the driver's side as well, of course. There doesn't seem to be any major leaks from the front yoke seal there, but we do have a leak on the front differential that looks very much like the leak on the rear differential, so we'll have to add a gasket for the front one as well to the list. We've got the standard skid plate underneath the oil pan, and it looks like we've got another one here. Looks like we've got the later style drum emergency brake setup. And that's the transfer case right there, of course. And it looks like we have a leaky transfer case too. So I suppose we should add that gasket to our list as well. And I thought this might be a rotisserie type paint job, but it looks like it was not after all. You can see the stuff in here is unfinished. All this metal in here is unfinished. But all this metal looks really good. It's just got surface rust on it. There's no rot that I can see yet anyway. And there's no major dings or dents. Frame rails look good and solid. Yeah, look up in there. The bottom of the body, although it's unfinished, it's really in very good condition. And towards the rear, again, we've got some pretty good looking spring packs here. Looks like those were painted on the top and sides, but not on the bottom. Hard to say. Newer shocks. Again, we've got new brake lines installed back there. The pinion seal back there might be leaking a little bit. I see some wetness on the yoke, but it's not enough where it's dripping on the ground, so that's okay the way it is. Well, it looks like this is why we have that new pipe in our spare parts, because this one is just completely deteriorated away at the end. And we've got some tie wire there holding the muffler up to the frame. I thought I heard something rattling back here, so we could fix that. And then on the other side of the muffler here, you can see how loose it is on that pipe. And looks like we have, yep, there's a hole in the pipe right there. Looks like somebody tried to patch it with something. I don't know what that black stuff is, but that has since blown out. And they tried to patch it right there on the muffler. Must have been a hole underneath that. So basically, this whole muffler pipe system back here is kind of in not very good condition. Now looking up at the bottom of the body, you can see where the black color meets the old color with the surface rust. It looks to me like the black was a new panel replacement. It looks like they spot welded it to the sheet metal on the body. I don't have any problem with that. It looks just fine. Backside of the brake drums here look really nice. I can't help but wonder if they did a complete brake job on this. That's evidence is pointing that way anyway. The frame itself looks really good. It's just got surface rust on it, and again, so does the bottom of the body. It looks like we can improve upon the adjustment to the emergency brake. You can see how much slack is here, and when I pull it forward, you know, there's just too much slack here before it engages. And you can feel that up there in the cab when you engage the brake. The brake seems to work, but there's definitely some slop there that we can take out. And right there is the block off plate for the PTO. And that's also where you would mount an overdrive unit if anybody decides to do that. I'm actually considering maybe doing that on this vehicle. Let me know what you guys think about that. Leave a comment if I should install overdrive on this or not. I really won't be able to make a determination until I get the Jeep roadworthy and see how fast it goes in third gear. Maybe it'll be fast enough for me, but I think those overdrive units are not that difficult to install. They're just a little pricey is the problem. About 1,300 bucks for one of those things. So we'll keep that in the back of my mind anyway. And look at that short little drive shaft, isn't that cute? I mentioned at the beginning of the video that the clutch pedal was not adjusted properly. You have to push it all the way to the floor, and then it barely engages, and as soon as you lift your foot up like an inch, then it engages. And I don't like the way that feels at all. I like it higher up in this travel. So you can see it goes down this far without doing anything. It'll be hard to show you here in the dark, but you push the pedal down and it's connected to the shaft, which is connected to another bracket, which is connected to a rod, which goes back further underneath that frame rail and eventually operates the clutch. So I think with all that travel, we should be able to adjust that properly. Hopefully that's all it needs. And looking at the exhaust pipe up here, even you can see they use that black stuff on this to try to fill some more holes. And just overall, the exhaust pipe is really in pretty poor condition. But I might just get a completely new exhaust pipe kit for this Jeep, starting from the manifold, because these pipes here are not in very good condition. Again, the spring packs look really good. The frame rails look outstanding. New brake lines up here as well, relatively new shocks. But we do have a pretty leaky oil pan that we should address. Yeah, it's kind of hassle to do that, but if we're going to change the oil anyway, we'll just drop the pan and put a new gasket on there and see if we can seal up some of those leaks that are coming off of it. So we're going to add a few more things to the list here. Front differential gasket leak, transfer case gasket leak, oil pan gasket leak, and perhaps redo the entire exhaust system. I also have a list from the previous owner of things to check on the car, and one of them was fan belt. I have no idea what that means, but we'll check it out. There's a brand new heater installed in the Jeep, but it's not connected either via ducting or electricity, it doesn't look like. So we got to hook up the heater, glove box. Lube is on his list, so we'll lube the chassis. Another thing that you can't overlook when you're buying a classic vehicle is you have to check the wheels and the wheel bearings. If you don't do this and the wheel bearings happen to be shot and you go driving down the road, really bad things can happen sometimes, like your wheels can come off. You want to check all four wheels. I grab at the top and the bottom, and you try to see if it has any rock this way and then side to side. See if the wheel looks straight. This one looks good, so let's check the others. This one actually has just a touch of movement here. It's definitely not bad, but I should actually add this to the list. When we check the brake system, when we have the wheels and the drums off, then we can evaluate the bearings and how tight everything is. But as it is, it's totally fine to drive, but there is just a little bit of play in there. Nice and tight there. So all 4 wheels are good. 3 of them are great. That front right one just has just a tiniest amount of play in it. But like I said, it's safe to drive it the way it is, and we can investigate this more when we do the brakes. Well, I'm starting to run out of room on my board over here, but I just wanted to get this added to the list. I've also added e-brake. We need to adjust the cable on that. We should probably add a thermostat to the engine, and I also added just the general wiring cleanup under the dash there. So although the board is pretty much full, we have a long list of things to do. I am super excited about getting going on this project. I think it's going to be a really fun vehicle for me. So don't forget, we're still working on the Willys pickup truck. I'm right in the middle of a huge project repair on the Model T truck there. We're right in the middle of a huge project on the Fordson Major Diesel. We've still got the Farmall M to finish up. The 53 truck doesn't need a whole lot at this point. That's pretty much good to go. We've got the ACB10 here. We've got the Yamaha YL2C. John Deere B just on the other side of the shop here. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Check out antiquecarsandstuff.com. That's one of the ways I help fund this channel and buy all this stuff. I'm getting really good reviews on these t-shirts as well. I love them too. They just feel nice to wear and they fit right. They're pre-shrunk, so it's gonna fit the way you think it should. I hope you guys like this Jeep as much as I do, and although our list of repairs is fairly extensive, I don't think it's gonna cost a whole lot of money. Mostly just labor, gaskets, oil, light bulbs, and things of that nature. So I'll say so long for now. Thanks everybody for watching. I always appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next video.